when everyone talks about can't wait to get back to Melbourne's vibrant hospitality scene, I'm not sure if they understand what the reality that's going to be like, because you can't just turn the switches on and get the actors back on stage and tell a band that hasn't played for 6 months that we're ready to hear you again. That's not how it works.
On Dirty Linen, we have been catching up with a whole lot of people in the hospitality industry, definitely focusing on Melbourne because Victoria is locked down and the road ahead is long. Speaking of roads, we're talking to Andy Mullins from Sandhill Road, a group which owns, I think it's 9, he can correct me, pubs in Melbourne, including such incredible venues as Garden State and the Espy. Andy, how are you going?
Oh, it's a big question, Dani. At the moment, I had someone ask me this morning if we were looking forward to the weekend, which was kind of surreal, given it literally is Groundhog Day, and unfortunately, a bit like the movie, it feels like being trapped in something too surreal to even comprehend. But on the whole, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah, just the simple question of how are you is so loaded at the moment, and I agree with you. Like what is Sunday? What is Mondays? I mean, I think I even had someone talk to me about Hump Day during the week, and it's like, yeah, it's all pretty meaningless. Um, yeah, the days blur. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think that's what we're learning to some very large degree is just missing that rhythm of life. That a Tuesday's got a certain feel to it, and that's because so did Friday, and then Sunday's got that sort of exhale as well before we gear up for the week. And we've got so many sort of signposts along the way for the week for how we're supposed to be feeling, and it's just a little bit flat. And you use that word on the intro about lockdown. I don't think any of us would ever have contemplated the idea that most businesses, certainly every single hospitality business, and I know it's a bit cliche to say, but the MCG is empty. There will be no grand final. You can't just duck down. In our case, to the Espy for a Sunday beer. That's just a surreal thing. Kids not at school, so I don't know. In the sort of broader sense of it, and with a bit of perspective, I think we've got to acknowledge we're doing a really good job, all of us, to be hanging in there, because it's pretty dire. It's pretty difficult to explain to a non-Victorian at the moment, isn't it?
I think you're right. I think, yeah, we definitely need everybody around Australia to pat us on the back later when we're allowed to touch again, and not to mention travel, whether it's to Victoria or from Victoria. It is pretty crazy, and I guess in a way we've had a long time to get used to things not being normal. But on the other hand, I reckon every few days I still have a real head check. Like, are you serious? We're in a pandemic, and my life is completely upside down. Because I think the strangest things almost are the normal things. Whatever it is, like whether it's changing the sheets on the bed or making a cup of coffee or walking the dog, like the things that are normal almost feel the weirdest. Yeah, it's surreal.
I think that's the real the challenge too is we know who we are as Victorians. We know our place within Victoria and living in Metro Melbourne, and we know the regions. Most Victorians have travelled to all the regions that are experiencing basically the same situation that we are here in the cities. And it's that reality that Victorians do it for a reason. So we live through the weather, and it's when you are a Victorian, you come to love the weather because it means a change in food and wine and fashion. And it's boots in winter and the MCG with a pie, like you duck into any one of the many restaurants in and around the CBD that are all world class. And that's what winter is. And then through spring it starts to open up, and then we start to move outside. There's no one that loves beer gardens more than Melburnians. We've had a pub in Queensland, and it's crazy. As long as we're warm and dry, we'll be outside at 6 degrees. But we do all that because we understand that people don't fly here, whether interstate or international. They're not coming for our beaches. Though we've got a couple of beaches, that's not what they come here for. They're coming for all the things that we currently can't touch, and it is the shopping and the fashion, and particularly the food and wine, the pubs, the sport, the arts and entertainment. Just to see, I don't know if you watched it, but in lockdown one, Powderfinger did a beautiful concert from 5 different parts of the country, And I got really emotional about it because I didn't realise until I saw that again how much I missed live music. Even though it wasn't live, it was beamed across 5 different locations, but somehow they brought it together. And I think that feeling is the sadness that so many of us are feeling is because we take comfort and refuge in the things we can't touch at the moment. Yeah, you can have a bad week. We all have bad weeks, but it's in my case, my wife and I would call up another couple and say, "Hey, do you want to go see a show and have a quick bite before and a couple of wines afterwards?" And you can't do that. And I think that's the real. You can see with a city that needs to yell, whether you love footy or not. You need sometimes to go and scream and shout, and we get to do that once a week. And in this case, we don't. So we just don't have access to those touch points of our culture. And in that sense, what you come down to is living in a city that can be 4 seasons in one day, and it doesn't feel as good. And there's there's this collective sort of, I'd hesitate to use the word depression unqualified, but there's an anxiety that's attached to Victoria at the moment. And we just, we are no different to the Queenslanders, Western Australians, Tasmanians, South Australians, the Territorians. We all live to the same themes, just that we can't access ours right now. And that day when it comes, Daniel, I just cannot wait to get in and support all the little venues that we've missed so much, and the sporting teams and the arts. Sorry, I'm going on, but what kills me at the moment is for the artists, whether they're actors or musicians, their second job is hospitality, almost across the board. That's their second job. That's their stability. That's the core. And could we imagine a city without music and without live performance on the stages of Melbourne? That's too much to bear. So, let's hope that the people making the decisions understand that we've got to get this city back going at some point. It's so needed in our life.
Oh, Andy, you've touched on so many things, and yeah, I couldn't agree more with you about the spirit that runs through Melbourne along all these different channels, and that's sport, that's arts, it's certainly hospitality, it's music, it's all part of the art of being a Melburnian or a Victorian. And I think definitely, as you point to, there is this feeling. It is a grind. Like we're in the thick of it, and it is. It's heavy, but I also do feel, and maybe this is my dumb optimism and hope as well, that I feel like we are going to come back, and there is that spirit, and because we all love the things that we're missing so much, we're gonna bring them back through sheer force of will and effort and just a commitment, because we want Melbourne to be the city that we love, and we want Victoria to be the state that we love. So we're treasuring it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's the harsh reality that we're starting to see amongst our peers is that, and we're saying I would have 20 to 25 conversations literally every single day with friends in across the arts, entertainment, hospitality space, and my message to all of them is just hang on to the other side, whatever it takes, get there. But so many aren't going to, and some of it's just, it really makes my blood boil. I read another article. I won't refer specifically because I don't have the permission to, but it was an article the other day about handing back the keys to a really important local pub, and it's important because it is in that community, and everyone's local pub is important. But what really made my blood boil is these people have had a business there for 18 years, and the landlords couldn't help them through 6 months. Like you couldn't let them go for 6 months. And the government, as much as there's a lot of talk about support, JobKeeper isn't. I mean, in our case, 30% of our staff are on JobKeeper, and it's not actually helping the business. It's helping the staff, which is critical. But 70% of our staff don't get the help, and that's because they weren't with the company for 12 months or longer. Well, this is hospitality. That's not how it works. Like, you drift in and out. That's the transient nature of it is what gives it its flavour. So we've had chefs, Dani, that have come from overseas who will do the work that others won't, whether that's dish work or junior chef work. They give everything of themselves and pay their taxes here, and they've been left. And meanwhile, sort of, it's a bit disheartening. As I don't want to come across as whinging to anyone listening, but I think we need to hear the reality. When we read on the front page of the paper a certain billionaire that's gloating about the profits they made from shopping centres, and we're scratching our heads saying, hang on, my friend just lost her pub for 18 years. And that's because it was closed in lockdown one, and yet shopping centres were open. So you could drive from anywhere you liked to any shopping centre you wanted to, and spend the day there, mixing with how many people we don't know on elevators that aren't regulated, and yet we're not allowed to open our businesses. And what I think is frustrating a lot of owner operators and managers is we live in a highly regulated environment every day. So we've got liquor licensing, we've got incredibly stringent ways of paying staff and all the different staff codes. So if you own a hospitality business, you're no dummy. Like you are set every single day the challenges of all these different regulatory pressures. There's so many that it's almost hard to believe. So in this one moment, when we are so used to operating in a highly regulated environment, and we tell our customers that you're safe with us, that's what we mean. We were doing it so well in lockdown. At the end of lockdown one, we came out of it, and it cost most businesses almost everything they had, especially against landlords that haven't given them a cent. And when everyone talks about, can't wait to get back to Melbourne's vibrant hospitality scene, I'm not sure if they understand what the reality that's going to be like, because you can't just turn the switches on and get the actors back on stage and tell a band that hasn't played for 6 months that we're ready to hear you again. That's not how it works. So I think Melbourne will come back if there's a really strong push from all Victorians to say, hang on, this is wrong. It's not right to pay billionaires staff wages while they gloat about their ASX success. That's not right, because my friend just lost their pub. And I spoke to another couple that I didn't even know off Facebook the other day. Saw them, they had 20 months in a pub. They just started their dream, and it's gone. Again, no landlord support, no government support. And I just think that's the industry. That's the city.
I mean, you touch on so many different things there. And I think, so one thing is the way that the support is arranged. I suppose, I've fought long and spoken as loudly as I could about the visa worker situation, and I think that that's been an ongoing disappointment that hasn't been rectified and those people looked after. When we talk about the support for businesses, as I hear you, like JobKeeper helps the employees when it does, but then the government support, whether it's in the form of tax relief and concessions, whatever it is, of course, that doesn't really put money through the business to keep things running, where you've got those ongoing costs. I guess some people have had landlords that have assisted them, but many people haven't. And sometimes that's because, landlords have their own issues as well. So it's not like they're always the bad guys, but of course, you would, I hear you. Sure, if someone's been there for 18 years, couldn't they be carried for 6 months? It sounds like perhaps they could. We don't know all the backstory.
Of course they could. And look, we know they can, because we've got landlords who, the very first day this happened, the very first day, called up and said, whatever it takes to get you through, we are here for you. And that's what you need to hear right now. And I think, but others that are putting us and other lots of other people through courts, because they all know that you can't fight a big corporation with lawyers. You're going to go down, but that's how disparate. So it was fine for Scott Morrison to stand there and say landlords must play by the code. Well, that's just so naive, as if it's going. But it's the essence of Melbourne that will get us through. And we know that there are so many people out there who understand that hospitality is the reason they live in the city. It is literally all the things we spoke about. They will come back. They are dying to come back. There's so much support every day from them. But I think we've just got to now, every day case numbers coming down and down and down. We have to get back to work. That's the reality. And we're doing it in a really regulated way. But we've got 70% of our staff haven't seen an income for over 6 months. I'm not sure who could survive that.
No, it's super tough.
It really is, yeah.
I mean, Andy, you're saying, you want to get everyone back to work. And there is a big push in the Melbourne and Victorian hospitality scene at the moment. There are, quite a lot of high-profile restaurateurs asking to, and I'm quoting, unlock hospitality. I know that some pub owners, such as yourself, have got together. I think to speak, not perhaps. You can correct me, but I don't think directly as part of that same campaign, but certainly with a similar message that you want to open and you want to open safely. What do you what do you think? Like, what do you expect? Because of course there are many industries that are unable to open. You can talk. I mean, you can talk to all the performers. Like we're not. We can talk to people who own gyms. We can talk to beauticians. There are a lot of industries that are like in desperate need to get the money flowing back through their business. I hear what you're saying about hospitality being regulated, and I definitely respect all the hoops that hospitality owners have to jump through every day simply to open and to stay open and to work within the many different codes and rules and regulations. But I also wonder, I mean, we've still got a pandemic and cases
Yep.
are coming down.
Yep.
What is the balance between that where you're saying to people, let's just hang on, just hang in there.
Yep.
What is the balance between hanging in there? And of course the line is drawn in different places for different businesses,
Of
isn't it?
course.
It's like you
Yep.
can't
Yep. Of course.
we of course everybody wants to open. Oh my god, like I'm so desperate for restaurants to be open, for the beers to be pouring, and for those beautiful internationals that are so struggling to be dancing around between the tables and the sinks and doing all the
Yeah.
things that we need them to
Mm,
do.
exactly.
But I mean, it doesn't seem. Yeah, I mean, like, let unlock, but how and when, and are we sure it's okay?
It's a really good question, and I think, and no one I've spoken to, aside from you've always got sort of extremists with extremist views. I'm not talking politically. I'm talking just hardline. Just open at any cost. That's no one sensible saying that. No one I've spoken to anyway with any sense is saying that. But it's a little bit like when we talk about the media might post an unemployment jump, and it might have gone from 6.1 to 6.6%, right? Which is not good because 0.5% of people in the state or country have lost their jobs or can't find it. But 93.5% of people are employed. So surely we can find a solution that doesn't just shriek about the bad. And in this case, there's almost no conversation. We know exactly whether the report comes out or not. And my hands in the air. I voted Labor and have for most of my adult life. So this isn't political for me in that sense. This is simply about saying we now know that 100% of the illness firstly came in through travel, and we didn't get that right. And we always knew, because international experience showed us, that the vulnerable elderly, particularly in homes, and anyone with an underlying condition, was going to be hit the hardest, because we knew at the time there was about 98.3% of people that recovered with so far, it's very early in this novel corona's life, but so far with no side effects. So what we've said and what we say every day is, let's focus on that for a moment, because there are other numbers too. We've got I don't know why it's a taboo topic, but there are suicides, there are broken families, broken marriages, and broken businesses, absolutely. Things that people work their life, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years for. So that's got a cost as well, and we have to talk about that. So all I want to see in the conversation is a balance that says, right, everybody, you must understand, if you are elderly, vulnerable, have an underlying condition, if you are regularly seeing your parents, uncles, aunties, and they're in that position, be very, very careful about how you interact in the community until there's a vaccine. That's treating us like adults, and that's allowing life to go back to the new version of what's normal until there is a vaccine. No one's denying that that life's going to be 100% normal until then. But that says, okay, well, say for example in our demographic, which would be the core demographic, would be 20 to 34-year-olds, relatively fit, healthy, and well capable, if they did contract the virus, of managing that in their life, as so many have. I haven't got the exact stats, but of course the mortality rate isn't 20, 30, 40, 50%. So all we're talking about is a balance that says, let's ease the industry back open, not shrieking from the hilltop saying we deserve special attention or we must be 100% open. That's just impractical and unsafe, which is not what we're talking about. We're simply saying where we were headed to pre-stage 2, which again was a preventable. We didn't realise, Dani, but that was another preventable situation that could have been controlled, but it wasn't. So hopefully now we've learnt those lessons. We get the cases down to where they're headed at the moment. We get them down to something manageable, but it can't be zero. I mean, New Zealand and Queensland and no country's got zero and stayed there. But there has to be a new version of normal. What's the alternative? Locking Melbourne up for foreseeable ever? It's not going to work. And the costs on the other side will be too high. So I'm certainly not shrieking. I feel very strongly and work with a lot of different people who own, two of my wife's best mates own, just opened their second gym and it's gone. Will it reopen? Let's hope so. So it's not just hospitality, but we have to have a balance in the conversation. It can't just be unilaterally, everything's finished, everything's closed, and we can't tell you when we need a pathway out of this. We haven't got one. And to me, that's really unexcusable.
Again, you've said a lot, and there's a few things that I want to unpick. One thing I just want to put on the record is that there hasn't been an increase in the number of suicides year on year in Victoria. So the coroner came out with those stats last week, and that is in no way to diminish the significant mental health impacts of what's going on, because they are vast and they will be with us for a long time. So of course there are many ways of talking about mental health impacts, and suicide is obviously one, and it's incredibly tragic, and any suicide is a tragedy. And I don't feel qualified to get into an argument about health and the spread of the virus and all that. I suppose my inclination is to trust the health advice that we're given, and to and I guess to follow the rules, and as I know you do as well, and to really hope that we're able to open safely as soon as possible. So I guess there's another side to opening, and I feel like if we opened now, that the flip side is, okay, open the doors. Well, it's not the flip side, but it's a thing that needs to follow. We open the doors, we need customers to get those businesses thriving again, to employ those people. So consumer confidence is, of course, a massive part of this question about how Victoria is able to progress. What do you think, where do you think that sentiment is at, and what do you plan to do as the owner of many prominent venues? And they're not just venues; they are those community hubs that you spoke so fondly about in the beginning. You're not just a lover of hospitality; you are a creator of those places where people go to feel part of the city, to have those key connections with their friends, with their family, to create those memories. What will you be doing to inspire the confidence in those hospitality experiences that Melbourne and Victoria is so good at creating?
Look, from day one of this situation being presented to us, we and realising that so many of our staff were going to fall through the cracks, like 70% of them. That you asked me in terms of stage priorities, they are still my number 1, 2, and 3 priority. So. Seeing that we were hoping everyone was going to get through on the JobKeeper, because of course that just made sense. That didn't happen. We still can't work out why. But the first thing was to feed them. So the Espy Kitchen pumps out 4 meals a week to every single staff member that through an email system says, yep, and then we box it up and deliver it to them, so they don't have to, they're not at risk to come out and get the food. Keeping them going is the single biggest, because it's always been the biggest thing. It's always been, we don't want to open the doors and people to flood back in. And that didn't happen in the first time. People were really excited, but they were cautious and careful. And then when we get a chance, all we want is the chance to serve them again. Because I back our staff, and it's not just my staff, but I can only talk on behalf of my staff or about my staff. I back them to turn 1 customer into 2, and 2 into 4, and 4 into 8. I back them to do it, because they genuinely love what they're doing. They know that they've got the support of us as they do it. They're in great spaces, and they're good. They're just great. I just love this millennial cohort that gets so much crap for so many unwarranted reasons. I love their passion, their vision for how they're going to live their lives, and every time they're on our floors, they give that to our customers. So I'm not worried about building the confidence back. But if you step off, that's my myopic view of my very small world. If you step back into it, I think you're right. We've got to separate frustration and anger from positive consumer sentiment. I think where you can't, where it's inextricably linked, we can't deny. Now we can, for political purposes, not talk about some certain things, but we can't deny that the single greatest ingredient right now in Victoria that I think is lacking, and it's not lacking for any one or two people, it's just trust. And now trust is built in the case of, I'm 45, so hey, I'm not even my own target market. But in the case of my group of friends and my community, there's the kids' school friends and parents, the frustration is only fed by not having the path. I know it's hard to give us a path, but when you're sitting at home going into your 7th month of no work, you need to have a path. And people, this might sound flippant to you, but I think a lot about these. I think a lot about young people who've left school or are about to leave school. And that was the greatest year of so many people's lives. They're heading off to work or university or travel. That's all gone. There's none of that this year. So I know from first-hand experience of talking to these young people by any means I can, whether it's social medias or friends of friends' kids, and speaking to them, their demand is so pent up because they're pissed off. Right? They're really jacked about saying, how much longer can we not go to school? How much longer? How many more dances do I have to miss? And you forget that. So I'm not. I would never be so arrogant as to say this is about me and my group of friends. This is about the elderly, and we didn't protect them, and we must. That's priority, absolute priority one. And sorry, our staff, as I said, in that hierarchy. But then there's my group, my tribe of parents. Parents have been locked up 6 or 7 months, and I know that Premier's a really good bloke. I don't know, but people can abuse him as much as they like. He's a good bloke and he cares. Have they made mistakes? Yes, some of them massive, but he's a good bloke and he cares. We need to think about those different tribes, including the young people who are just jacked and pissed off. And we've got to make sure that the three sections of those markets are working together cohesively. All they need is a plan. All my industry, the gym owners, the hair salons. I mean, how funny is everyone's hair at the moment? You're either cutting it yourself and it's all jagged, or everyone's got this really long hair. It's kind of weird, but everyone needs a roadmap out. I know they're trying to get that for us, but the moment that happens and we believe it, consumer sentiment will increase accordingly. So I don't. We looked the other day. People aren't think of the money we're not making from income's sake, because the whole industry is out of work. But then in balance, look at what we're not spending. So no one's buying clothes, no one's going out, no one's travelling, which is a huge. I think we spend $46 billion a year travelling overseas as Australians. That's a lot of money to be sitting in our economy. So I have faith that things will return, but I'm devastated for those who won't be there to see it, and whether they literally mortally not there, or they just lost their businesses, but by perhaps us not acting slightly quick enough. I'm rambling on a bit, aren't I?
No, not at all. I mean, there's a lot to
There's a
say.
lot
There
to
is a
say.
lot to say. There
There's
are
a lot
so
to
many
say.
layers to it.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I would say, Andy, is that there is a roadmap. It's just slower than a lot of people want, and it's contingent on case numbers, not on
Yep.
dates. To me, having it contingent on case numbers actually seems sensible.
Yep.
To
Yep.
say that things will be a certain way on a certain date, it's like, why, but I think that the frustration that people are feeling is around the numbers, and as I said, I don't feel qualified to weigh in on that. I feel inclined to follow the health advice, but there is so much collateral damage, and that is just gutting. Like, it is just gutting. And when we heard the dates, and the lockdown extended and all that, I was just closed in on myself with in absolute anguish. Like, it's just so gutting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is, and look, it's going to be. But again, I don't think I agree. I don't think unrealistic. If you give unrealistic roadmaps, pathways out of this, it erodes trust even further. But we have to have faith that we can tell people the truth, and let us manage that truth. Let's manage it at home with kids if you've got them. If you're isolated, I mean, I won't go on too much, but how you can travel to have sex with someone, but you can't travel to see your widowed mother who doesn't need care, but she does need love, of which that's not my mother, fortunately, but there's many out there. These little nuances. We just all we need to do is say, look, here we've. By the way, I'm not just talking about politics. We're demanding of the AHA, and they're delivering to us a roadmap out as well. We're demanding of each other. We're demanding of our neighbours. And we've got to trust that when we do get the chance to go again, we're not going to be flouting the rules the way that we did in lockdown one. So we need a massive sense here of community trust in each other to do the right thing. It's going to hurt, like grand final day this year. It's going to hurt like hell.
Oh,
It's going
mate,
to really hurt. But
so
but
bad.
but because even those who hate
It's
that,
coming back though.
of course it is. But even those who hate the AFL, it's going to hurt. So these are the things. I just sort of go back to that point, Danny. That I don't think we realised how much we relied on friendships outside of the home, the pattern of life, the rhythm of life, which we don't have at the moment because Sunday's Thursday and Thursday's Wednesday. I don't think I think we'll never take for granted that again. That idea of I just can't. My personally, I cannot wait to go and see a live show, and that doesn't matter to me if it's a busker on the street or an MTC performance or the Gershwin room packed and going off again. But hey, I have to realise they're all post-vaccine. That's not. We're not going to have that until we've got this. So we need a lot of trust. We need a lot of care for one another. And look, yes, people are getting fined for doing the wrong thing, but geez, you've only got to look overseas, Danny, and say we're doing a pretty bloody good job. I think it's amazing how well what we're doing in this environment. It's and that's got to give us hope to say the pathway out, once identified, we'll stick to it, we'll protect it, we'll call each other out on when we're not doing it right. So I've got a lot more hope. I just feel sad for those that won't be here to see it. That's tough.
Yeah,
That's tough.
yeah. Look, I really agree with you, and I think yeah, we are doing it so tough, and I think that we're going to be so grateful and glad and really just bloody proud of ourselves when we come out the other side. That I think we will protect the gains that we've made and the society that we're in, and we'll protect the things we love about the place that we live.
How much do we love seeing the numbers come down? Like genuinely, people in my community are sort of saying, "Hey, this is working," and that's all. That's all you need to do to keep. When we've got mates in Western Australia, again, I'm a bit myopic, so sorry to listeners because I am in hospitality. That's kind of what I do. But we've got mates with venues in Perth and Queensland and New South Wales and Tasmania too, actually. I'm sure we'd have South Australia. We thought about it, but we've got friends there that when you ask them outside of the 6 o'clock news, you say, "Hey mate, how's the feeling over in Perth right now tonight?" They said, "Mate, it's like COVID never happened." Now we were there too. Our numbers were there as well, and we lost control. But we have to believe, and then we have to support all the industries. So stop cutting your hair and go to your barbers, and put away your home weights, those ab roll cages that you bought online. Put that away, and we've got to get back to living that. We've got to own that. I think otherwise we're going to become really sooky for a really long time, and that's not Victoria's way. We've copped it. And we have to now get back involved and re-engage with society. We've got to get out and do all those things that make us such incredibly happy and proud Australians.
Well, I'm going to do a lot of those things at the Espy, Andy. I'm going to come back and drink beer. I'm going to eat food in every room. I'm going to drink up in the Alfred Felton bar up on the top floor.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a dance class in the Gershwin room. Oh, it must be weird there. It's just one of like my peak life experiences is last summer doing a dance class in the Gershwin room. I think it was to an Ed Sheeran video clip. You had that awesome instructor, and I realized about 5 minutes in that I'd never ever been to a dance class, and I was really I mean, I'm obviously like an awesome dancer, but I'm freeform, man.
Yeah.
Like I was so bad at that class, but I just loved how I didn't care, and
Yeah, Janine
it's
Willis
just
did
yeah,
that.
you
She's
just
amazing. Yeah, it's
she is so awesome.
it's so much to smile about.
Yeah, and that I just felt so lucky to be able to go on my bike down to the Espy, do something really stupid and crazy like a silly dance class, drink a beer, eat some fried fish, and then come home again. So I am looking forward to that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Andy, thank you so much for the pubs that you've created for Melbourne, and thank you for your energy and positivity. I know that you're going to be a big part of bringing Melbourne back. Thank you so much for having a chat today.
Such a pleasure, Danny. Thanks for giving the voice to these things and for all the work you're doing. I don't say that lightly. It's amazing leadership that you show, and we're really really grateful. Thank you so much.
No worries. If anyone needs to go beyond this conversation and chat to somebody, you can contact your GP and be referred for mental health support. You can also look at Beyond Blue, which is beyondblue.org.au. And if you need someone to chat to right now, you can call Lifeline on 131114. This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about. We spend a week thrashing around each issue, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This is a Deep in the Weeds production.